Men, what are some questions you've always wanted to ask women, but were too embarrassed? Women's hair thins with age, too, and some do actually experience a degree of baldness. More women than you realize are wearing toppers, extensions, or wigs. Women losing their hair is way less socially acceptable than men losing theirs. So those who suffer from hair loss tend to go to great lengths to hide it, in a similar way to how we are so secretive about how much hair grows everywhere else on our bodies. It depends. Usually it hurts because inexperience leads to doing things in a way that would hurt, or due to a medical condition you wouldn't know about until you put pressure on the vaginal muscles, not knowing about how much lube to use, never using those muscles before, anxiety leading to muscle tightening, and not being sufficiently aroused, also due to anxiety, can all lead to pain. Some women also have a condition that extremely tightens the muscles to the point only very thin things can fit in there, and especially if they always use pads, they may not know they have that condition until their first time. Yes, in more ways than one. I masturbated growing up, so it wasn't as bad for me. Although I can still remember the first time I started to use toys to masturbate, the first time there was blood and it did hurt. I remember wondering why anyone would enjoy it, but my BF had no idea how painful anal sex could be. His understanding came from porn. The first time I had anal, we were extremely slow and barely moved at all, but I was in pain for days afterwards and had difficulty using the bathroom, as well as blood. A year or so later, I have gotten used to it and am better with it, but it's rare we do that because I do still have pain and the difficulty going to the bathroom doesn't go away. This can vary among women and which stage of pregnancy they are in. At first, you might not feel anything, or your pelvis might feel really tender and kind of bloated. At a certain point you can start to feel movement inside. When the baby is small and has space to move around, it might feel like a flutter. After the baby is bigger and space in the uterus decreases, it can feel like getting poked and prodded from the inside. This can make the pregnant woman feel happy and reassured, but also sometimes uncomfortable. Sometimes the baby will kick you in the ribs or push into your back. You could compare it to carrying a backpack, but imagine that the backpack is inside your body. After a certain point, that does feel like the baby is pulling down on your body, especially if the belly sticks out a lot. Being pregnant can make different physical positions uncomfortable, but again, it depends on the person and the stage of pregnancy. Been pregnant 10 times and had 2 babies. Okay, first trimester, so you know when you binged too much and your stomach skin becomes tight? Except what you binged gave you food poisoning, and someone keeps repeatedly punching you in the balls, except they are on your chest now, and you have been awake for 36 hours and need to sleep. Also, you haven't pooped in 3 months. You can smell everything and it all smells terrible. Second trimester, decent. You're still throwing up, tired, boobs hurt. But now you have those hormones relaxing your ligaments so your body doesn't feel as tight. Third trimester, fuck you, fuck this, fuck that, fuck everyone. Even if you weren't waking up every 15 seconds to go pee, you couldn't sleep anyways. Everything hurts. You have sciatica and swelling. You don't recognize your body or your emotions. You can't breathe because all your organ space is being taken up by this giant fluid and human-filled sac. You can't get a full meal, and because your stomach is being squished and you're constantly starving, this little alien is doing literal cartwheels inside of you, and it doesn't care how many ribs it breaks in the process. Actually, 2 ribs broke with child 1. You want to poop? Fuck you. You don't even remember what pooping is at this point. Your life is suffering and you can't wait for the sweet release of tearing asshole up. Good questions. I've been pregnant 3 times, but the last time it was twins. I always carried all my babies high, so the babies never pulled down, but I have seen some women with low-hanging babies, and I can't imagine that they don't pull down. It's kind of like having a backpack, but it's inside. It does mess with your balance, but it's really hard to explain. The weight of the baby and the placenta and all the fluids is inside your torso, so it's not really different than a guy with a giant beer gut, I think. You can sit any way you want when you're pregnant, but I really don't think you can lay on your stomach after a few months. And really, If you want the healthiest baby, you are going to lay on your left side. Shout out to all the women on bed rest, and all the women who have ever been on bed rest who know the left side rule. As a woman, I cannot answer this. I don't get it. Apparently some part of our monkey brains pushes us to breed to continue the species. I have had multiple friends who gave birth and for the first year they would swear that they would never do that ever again. One and done, threatening their spouse's balls. Then they get within 500 feet of a baby and that new baby smell flips a switch and boom, they forget the pain and oh, I want another one takes over. After my first came out, there was this feeling of joy and happiness that washed over me. I seriously couldn't remember the pain. I had to actively try and remember and it was hard. I remember saying one is good. I never want to go through that again. But seeing him play by himself and being alone made me feel like he needed a sibling. They are the best of friends now. Also, knowing there was an end to the pain and seeing that end was worth all that struggle makes the pain just a side effect. Guys with massive dicks in my experience tend to be crapper in bed. It's like, they think that's all that matters so don't actually take the time to put any effort into the actual foreplay or just jackhammer, which frankly just chafes. I did very briefly date someone with an actually micro penis and a short tongue once. That was difficult. But I've heard he's happily married with 2 kids now, so he worked it out somehow. Someone kind of already said this. Vagina's very in size too. I have been with too small and too big for my personal pleasure. I was about 25 and sick of birth control fucking up my hormones, so I was fitted for a diaphragm, a little cup thing to fit around your cervix. The woman puts her fingers in there and goes, "Wow, you have a deep vagina, thanks." But before that I didn't know. I didn't even know it varied much in depth. Basically you've got to find the right penis size to vagina size. Not really. What really decides how enjoyable sex is for women is if the guy cares about her having fun. From my friends' experiences, 90% just care about themselves and think of a woman as just someone to make them come who doesn't feel any enjoyment during sex. And because those guys are usually horrible at it, they feel validated when their GFs keep turning down sex. It's completely different to be with a man that focuses on your needs, and if someone does that, size really doesn't matter at all. If you learn how to please a woman in different ways, you really don't have anything to be insecure about. Maybe look for body language that indicates she'd like you to respond with more than only a polite thank you. That could mean she's either fishing for a compliment in return, which isn't great of her, or she's flirting with you. I don't know. Whenever I give a platonic compliment to a gay, it's either made in passing with a smile but without any sparkly-eyed glances, or just as a momentary part of normal conversation with an easy transition to any other platonic subject. So there are a few things that I want to touch on here. 1. If you are approaching a strange woman in public that you're romantically interested in, you need to tread very carefully. Women are socially conditioned to be polite even when we feel uncomfortable, threatened. So if you are going to try, you need to be very aware of leaving ways for her to exit the conversation, both socially, verbally and physically. A lot of guys I know unwittingly block exits because they don't realize how big they look/don't have to constantly worry about safety like that. Beyond that, practice. I once went without answering good or fine to how are you for a few weeks as a challenge. Even just switching to something like it's almost the weekend or I can't wait for spring and a smile to the checker at the grocery store gets a much more warm and genuine response back. They'd tell me about how they heard the weather would warm up soon or tell me if it was almost the end of their shift. I didn't form any deep relationships with them or anything, but it gave me the confidence to at least try to talk to people in other areas of my life. In my experience, women's attraction to men is frequently relative to his personality. In other words, a sorta ugly guy who is sweet, funny, considerate, he becomes super hot and desirable. A really handsome guy who acts like an asshole, none of the handsome matters anymore. He's completely unattractive no matter what his face looks like. It can be hard to get someone to stick around past the first impression, I'm sure. But guys shouldn't resign themselves to "I'm not Chris Hemsworth so no woman will ever want me." Trust me, if it came out tomorrow that Hemsworth is a piece of shit, every woman I know would lose all interest in him. Meanwhile, I've seen women raving over the crow's feet and pudgy tummy of a guy they like. Be kind and someone will absolutely want you. For real, just listen closely when she talks about things she likes, what she likes about them. Keep a running note on your phone to keep a list of ideas so you don't get buyer's block a week before your birthday. Even if she's not the type to mention specific items she'd like, paying attention to what she does/doesn't like about things she already has so you have some idea of what to look for. Avoid. Even if a gift isn't to my taste, I will always appreciate it if I can see that it was a thoughtful gesture. Make it an appropriate one, but just pay attention to things she talks about and likes. Some off have comment about a book she's reading or read. You can search for it and see recommended books similar to it. Or maybe she likes plants, so you rummage through your brain and decide on a glass terrarium for her to create a little plant scene for her place, etc. Thinking outside the box is difficult, but showing us that you pay attention and care enough to remember some topic or comment is really special. Those are always my favorite gifts. What everyone else said, and also, ask her girlfriends. They probably have a good idea. Also, girls generally want something romantic or like something that feels really personal. If I mention I need a new toaster, that isn't a sign that I want a toaster for my birthday. And nothing that is related to chores. Make it something fun. Smile. I feel like a lot of guys would love a nice toolbox for their birthday. BC it's practical, but if you gave me a vacuum, practical as it may be, I'd be pissed. A lot of beauty products and the general idea that they have to look good is generally pushed towards women. Unless a male has severe acne, many men don't do skincare. Ask your male friends and family members what's their skincare routine. Then ask your female friends and family members. There will be more women who do it than men. Plus, you also only notice the pretty and attractive women, so all the ugly or average women go unnoticed or unremembered. I'll ask him questions that make him talk about himself, his hobbies, his dreams, and his silly side. My goal is to really get to know him and make it less about me. If I'm talking to him in person, I'll fidget and talk with my hands a lot while trying to avoid eye contact because I'll get shy if we lock eyes for too long. I'll brush my hair behind my ear while biting my lips when he's talking. Didn't realize I did this till a friend pointed it out. Lol. I always blush when he compliments me, even if it's a simple compliment or one I hear a lot from others. It feels extra special from him. I'll definitely ask for hugs from him anytime I get. If I'm texting him, when I can I'll add good morning, good night, drive safely, welcome back home, and small little stuff like that. I'll always answer within a few seconds so I don't forget to message him. If I don't get back to him, I'll send a quick explanation like, "Sorry, I got off of work," or stuff like that, then continue whatever we're talking about. The text messages become letters. I'll ask to call instead or to meet up when we can because I want to hear his voice. Or in some cases I'll just straight up ask if he's single, usually when I'm more comfortable and he hasn't gotten the hint or seems unsure on what to do. This is coming from an introvert. Smile. Okay, this is something I want to know the woman's perspective on. Recently I have been placed on Prozac. The only side effect I have relates to the bedroom, so I have no problem getting an erection. My problem is no matter how hard I want to finish I just can't. I can finish if I am doing it by myself, though it does take longer. I worry my wife thinks I am not attracted to her anymore, which is far from the truth. I have talked to her and she tells me she understands, but I worry that she is just saying that. Even though we have spoken to her about this problem, should I worry that she will still think it is her and not me? Before anyone makes the remark about it must be nice to last that long. It is not as great as it sounds, and I have an appointment with my doctor to talk about this, but that is a few weeks out. I don't quite get this, but I'll answer what I found are possible meanings to this question. A sense of whether he's a fuckboy or whether he's a loyal one. I don't think that's possible. A sense of whether I'd like to be with this guy again as opposed to, this is the only time we'll be doing this. I guess so, yeah. 3. Girls like to chat in washrooms, about the guy they're with, girl talk, etc., but also in some places it's about safety. For me personally, I'd about the chat. I care about the safety. If I were at a club or a festival, I'd go with someone, doesn't have to be female, 'cause I don't want to get in a spot where I could be in literal danger or get lost. I will just answer 3 cause I'd about 1 and what you mean by 2. I walk to washroom in groups cause me and the girls love to hang out in washroom all the time, like do weird stuff or dance. That's the only place where we can be ourselves, cause we would just be conscious anywhere else. So if one of us needs a washroom, we all go together by grabbing that as a chance. It's just fun, UK. And for a reference, I am not from West, I'm from East, and I know for matter that this is definitely why girls here walk there in groups together. It's just weird to go alone. Ooh, I'd love to answer this one. Sometimes we do know, but sometimes we don't. Usually, we have formed in our minds at that point what we feel about the guy. And yes, we will be thinking I'm going to leave right after this, or I'll play it along for a few weeks, or I hope he likes me back. All the while assessing how you've been acting and the situation that is making it seem how you are thinking about the relationship, whether it's a lover or one-time thing. If we get the vibe that you're just looking for a good time, we're also looking for a good time, or we're desperate and will take anything and cry about it later. If we can sense you're a lover, and we're not on the same page, we get uncomfortable and guilty and may ask to stop and reevaluate the relationship. I would like to see one really good novel that doesn't involve any kind of romance at all. It's sort of from a childhood frustration of not being able to read without awkward love scenes, or the storyline being dominated by a love a man has for a girl who doesn't seem to even care, or a girl who can't seem to make up her mind, especially if it involved sex, which made me uncomfortable as a kid. I don't believe I have yet to actually read a novel that doesn't have any kind of romance in it, and I kinda want to complete this quest. We talk about stuff such as, is my makeup okay? What did you think about that test? Hey, did you get this done? Do you like this guy? I really need to adjust my tights. I can't believe that we've had to just go through that. And the best part of all, they'll be there for you when you need toilet paper and there's none in the stall next to you. I honestly think this is the #1 reason to have a girlfriend come with you to the bathroom. Hey, can you hand me some toilet paper? Guys will never get how often we walk into a stall with no toilet paper. Can you guys notice when a man is dealing with some inner emotional issues? A bit of context. I've been in several great relationships whilst I was deeply depressed. Not really being the guy who talks about what's bothering him, I typically just held it in, which more times than not caused me to act incredibly irrational. Surprisingly, none of them really ever seemed to notice or ever ask, "Are you okay?" Not that I resent them for that at all. I was in my own head dealing with my issues, but I've seen a lot of guys ask the same question. If you see something that gives you a bad vibe or is blatantly not okay, then say something out loud, or at least try to approach her and ask her if she feels safe. If she doesn't, offer to do something, distract, misdirect, call someone for help and stay nearby until help arrives. Give us space, or make your presence known if you're passing us when walking or walking behind us. Respect our boundaries, and encourage your friends to do the same. If we aren't interested or break it off, let us be, and don't assume we are out to get you or commenting on your masculinity. For the love of all things, please don't stand so close to us. Refer to us by our names if you know it, not by pet names, because it's very demeaning. Don't shy away from listening to us. It may be uncomfortable to hear some of the things we deal with, but knowing is the beginning of understanding, and change can't happen without that. Understand that due to previous experiences, some women may not feel comfortable or will be scared by a man talking to her, regardless of whether you're nice or not. In a situation like public transport, there's no reason to strike up a convo out of the blue, so it's best to not deliberately try to talk to her. You could smile, not creepily, and don't stare though lol. and then she may feel comfortable to start a convo with you. If she's surrounded by other men, no other women around, she will likely be more on edge. If you see someone making her uncomfortable, try to step in and help. Thank you for taking the time to learn. It means a lot for women as it helps us feel less in danger by ourselves.